it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today we are going to be stepping up our nesting die game because I want to show you that we can use them in so many different ways, but I have a couple of ideas here today just to get your creative mind flowing. So these colors here come from a card front pack. I can't remember the name just at the minute, but that's how I got inspired by the colours. It comes with 2 of each colour in the card front pack, and quite fun to use because it did actually probably make me use a colour combination that I wouldn't usually pick out. So we're going with that. And for today's cards, I'm going to be using the chunky scalloped rectangles. This is just a beautiful, gorgeous nesting die set. These card fronts are going to be A2 size, so as you can see, that means that the largest one on here just fits inside of that, so perfect for layering up. And then with that smooth transition of die cutting all of these out with the very largest one. Now I'm not going to use these how you might think. I'm actually going to take the edges off all of these. Now I learnt my lesson with the grey one, so do as I say and not as I do for this one, but I do change my plan for the rest of them. I cut off the short edges first and then the long edges. I just hold these all up against my trimmer and they end up being like I just put them to the nearest quarter and they end up that way easily being able to tell that they are all the same width. So super simple. Now, of course, if you've got border dies, if you've got any other nesting dies, not necessarily like plain rectangles, but or squares, whatever you've got, but more something with a decorative edge. Remember that there are always more ways that you can use what you have in your stash, and that's what my whole channel is about using our stash in really creative ways, making the most of what we've got. So I've cut off all these gorgeous scalloped edges. Like instead of having to buy another die that is another scalloped edge and something else to keep track of, just think about how you've got what you've got in your stash and all the ways that you can use this in so many different creative ways. So we are just creating this beautiful scalloped background here. I've got a piece of scrap paper on the background just to kind of guide me as to where I want all of this covered. This one worked out really well. As I said, I was inspired by that gorgeous little card fronts pack, and that's how I picked the colors. So I can't claim that this was me. I can't claim that this was genius, and I just really like how they worked together. As I said, I wouldn't have picked it, but I love how they work together. So it's good to be inspired by products every now and then as well. Remember that you can take inspiration from anywhere. As I mentioned, I had that guide behind there, so I was originally going to trim and just go with that. That would be my guide, but actually I decided to cut off the bottom layer of those beautiful frills. Even though I originally had thought I might keep that, I did want to actually square this up beautifully. Now this first card is going to be beautiful, plain, simple. All I'm going to add to this one, in fact, is going to be a gorgeous, quite a focal point sentiment, I would say. But this is just that type of card. This could be a birthday. This could be a celebration. You could do this in like baby colors if you wanted to welcome a little bubba. You could do this in like happy anniversary, happy retirement. These are the kinds of backgrounds that you can create where you just pop the sentiment on later as well. So this one is a super easy way to use up your gorgeous nesting dies that don't necessarily just have a straight edge. I'm more thinking about the decorative element edges. So this one is the, I think it's called Fancy Just Because. It'll all be linked down below if you want to see these anyway, but a very, plain, gorgeous focal point because our background is bold. Then for the second card, we're going to use the same dies, obviously. This one is going to be I think this is the second to smallest die, nesting die that is in this set. And this one's going to be a little crazier. So when I was looking at this, if you cut along there, it makes this gorgeous kind of triangle, like a cloudy triangle. I want to show you some of the things that you are able to do with this. And I think specifically this card, I want to show you several ideas before I actually get to the card, but this is like where you just really have to look at the products that you have in your stash, look really closely and have a play around sometimes. Now you might choose to do this with scrap paper or paper that you've already ruined or damaged or spoiled or something like that. You know, you don't necessarily have to try this out with your best beautiful cardstock, but have a play around with shapes. Like, can you make anything else work? Can you use part of it? Can you use the corners of it? Can you turn some of it upside down? I don't know. Just have a look at the products that you've got. And then this one here, like, you could stack these all really closely together. And again, I'm just following the same pattern. You could have these really mushed up close together. You could have them a little bit more spaced out. You could do this, turn them kind of sideways so that they are actually facing the left-hand side, and do that same sort of pattern but go along. You could do something like this where you create the little triangles that we've cut back into squares and do some different colors and cover your whole card front like that. You could go down along the edges, and this kind of makes like a natural frame around something, and it's like a diamond or a sideways square or a diamond in the center, and that leaves a nice spot for a focal point. Or, I mean, there's just so many different options. Turn them all in towards each other, and because they're just not the plain shapes, it does give a whole new element to this. So you can make these squares sort of facing inwards, and this is the design that I finally decided to go with, except for I'm going to change it up just a little bit. We also want to add in another couple of little elements to make this fun, but this is the point where I was like, there's just so many different options that you could choose out of a really simple nesting die set. So I really, really do encourage you to take a look at what you've got in your stash. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a nesting die set, because this was made with the one singular die of that set, but just really fun shapes. I do love nesting die sets because I do think they give you a lot of options, and of course I do think it is a staple to have in your stash if you are into die cutting. Now, this is what I'm going to do. I've taken a second piece of card front cardstock because I want to cut this out and lift it up. This is a really simple, easy, beautiful design, but I do want to elevate it in a couple of different ways. Once I've got these all glued on, I'm actually going to trim this out. As I mentioned, I want to pop this up, so I am going to put some foam tape behind it. You could also add like a little bit of like if you had a gorgeous die cut border, or if you wanted some ruffled ribbon, or if you had some like lace or something like that, you could have that poking out at the top and the bottom here to add a little more decorative element as well. This card is going to be really plain, simple and gorgeous for me. I'm going to have this one landscape. The fold is at the top obviously, and then I just want I don't want a sentiment to take this over, because this is the colourful, geometric sort of, I really like this look. So I'm going to go with a really small little sentiment here. And again, earlier me thanks myself, because I decided one day when I had a minute and no inspiration to just die cut all of these, stamp them out, and then I would find it much more useful to me when I can just grab and go. And that's exactly what this is. This is I think it's Sunshine and Smile set. Anyway, they'll be linked down below, but super simple. So I encourage you to have a good play around with your nesting die set. This one here is going to be the chunky scalloped rectangles, and is a really great set for versatile options. But nonetheless, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being here. Let me know down in the comment section down below some of the ways that you've used some nesting die sets. I can't wait to read, and I'll see you next time.